Welcome to What's Happening Now. And let me tell you this, if you like politics served spicy hot and shoved right down your throat, then you've made it, baby. Tonight we'll gain a little insight into some of the biggest scandals and controversies threatening to rock the very foundation of our once great nation. We're taking a look at the Scopes monkey trial, the upcoming Olympic Games, women governors, Mr. Polarizing himself, Benito Mussolini, and for our main course, the Teapot Dome scandal all you cool cats have been shaking your tails at. And who's this we've got in the studio? Mr. F. Scott Fitzgerald himself. Set your chronometers to rowing good time here on What's Happening Now. Good evening, folks. I'm glad that you can join us. Our main guest will be coming up in a minute, but first, our moment of clarity. It's easy to get distracted by glitz and glamour these days. As the economy picks up, people feel good, and that's to be expected. But for some ding clarity here at What's Happening Now, we remind you that just because there's a lot of good happening around us doesn't mean that we can just ignore the bad. We have the good times because we are vigilant about focusing on the bad times and working hard to eliminate them. Only through good citizenship can we maintain the good and avoid the bad. This has been your hokey moment of ding clarity. Thanks, Mr. and Weird Announcer Guy. Today in our Fast Break Bulletin, we'll be talking about the Teapot Dome affair. I am joined by our distinguished friend, syndicated columnist, Jack. Jack, welcome to the show.
Hi, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Jack, what exactly is the Teapot Dome affair? What's going on here?
Well, Josh, it's the Teapot Dome affair, that is an inquiry into the dealings of the Secretary of Interior, Albert Fall, and the distribution of oil rights in Wyoming.
Okay, so who cares? What's the issue?
I'm getting to that, but I paused so that you could interrupt me. See,
oh, thank you.
In 21, Harding issued an executive order that sent the control of the several oil fields in the United States, including Teapot Dome, from the Department of the Navy to the Department of the Interior. The charge against Fall is then that he leased these rights to several companies without any sort of competitive bidding.
Okay, doesn't the government do this sort of thing all the time in the interest of expediency?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But the issue here is that such leasing schemes, while perfectly legal, they reek of corruption.
Well, you know pretty well how I feel about government corruption. I love it. All right, it's a perfect reflection of the vile nature of humankind and the trappings of power. You could put an absolute saint, and I do mean a bona fide manifestation of sanctimony wearing human flesh, right into a political office, and before you know it, he's going to be skimming money any which way to buy his ticket to Easy Street.
Is that where Bruce Springsteen lives?
That's the E Street Band.
Oh.
But you're on the right track, laddie.
Let me get this straight. You're saying you fully recognize the downsides of corruption, how it can destroy society from the inside out, yet you fully endorse it because it offers the plebes a conspicuous display of humanity's worst traits? What kind of purpose does that serve?
Well, obviously, Jack, I'm being a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Okay, I don't actually like that corruption exists, but I do get a little rush to my penis when I see my skepticism of the U.S. political system validated in the form of a monopoly-looking man with a snidely whiplash mustache cackling as he sneaks out of the Capitol building carrying a big-ass bag with a dollar sign on it. It's just too fucking perfect.
Oh, for sure. I definitely get some self-satisfaction from it. I'm just a little worried that instead of focusing on ways that we can make the country better, which might be a little doughy-eyed, I certainly admit, we just sit and criticize from our armchairs or computer chairs. Maybe, Josh, we're just contrarians. We can point at all the problems in the system, but do you really think that if we were in positions of power, we wouldn't pull the same shit?
Well,
I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I'm right there on the same page with you about this, as I just said a moment ago. I hate that corruption happens, but I'm kind of equally tired of people just complaining about it and acting like they're on some higher moral plane. It doesn't really serve anyone's best interests.
All right, I agree with you, Jack.
Yeah, so take Fall, for example. Currently, the investigation is pursuing the issue of Fall's personal finances. He's become a very rich man quite recently, and people are talking that it's related to bribes from the sale of these oil rights. So he's being investigated for being...
Wait. It sounds to me like he's being investigated for being too obvious and cheap. Look, everyone in the government cheats, takes bribes, and steals from the taxpayers. Or expenses. They're either cheap or they're expensive accountant. Fall's problem, as opposed to Summer's problem, is that he did it too obviously. The rest of these corrupt bastards are making him their fall guy for accidentally shining a light into the wrong den of cockroaches.
Well, what about rule of law? We complain about corruption, but don't you think there's still a lot of good people in the government?
I don't know, maybe?
Seriously?
Well, okay, it's all bullshit. How do you sort the good and the bad anyways?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I see your point. You're saying that since the bad ones will lie and cover up their dealings, and because they're so powerful they have the means to do so effectively, it'll be difficult to tell the good people from the bad.
Well, that's basically it. Look, I don't know much, but it does seem like we're making an uproar over nothing here, so we might have profited from the sale of these oil fields. Is that really such a big deal? I'm going to invoke some relative privation here. The world didn't end. Nothing blew up. The sky isn't falling. Our lives remain the fucking same. I just think we're focusing too much on bullshit that ultimately doesn't really matter.
Look, you may be right, but shouldn't we pursue it anyway, just on principle? If such things were rampant, then we would have a problem.
Sure, yeah, but let's keep things in a little bit of perspective here. Earth is going to crash into the sun someday, so let's focus on what's important.
Well, okay. The story is really heating up, though. There's investigations into the loan that Fall received at no interest for $100,000. It's big bucks. Big bucks. But the investigators, under Democratic Senator Thomas Walsh of Montana, will get to the bottom of it soon, or it will blow over, I'm sure.
Yeah, those damn Democrats, right, Jack?
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, so let's move past the dome. What's the deal with this Scopes thing?
The mouthwash?
The trial.
Trial bottle.
The Scopes monkey trial.
Oh, right, of course. Well, I'm sure everyone is aware that it's a trial of a substitute high school teacher, John Scopes.
A substitute teacher? He's not a real teacher. He's just a scab?
Well, I mean, he's a real teacher. He's just not a regular school teacher.
So he's a damn foreigner stealing our fucking jobs.
I think he's actually from Kentucky.
Well, that is another country altogether.
Debatable. In any case, he's accused of teaching evolution in the classroom.
Alright, what's the story?
Really not much. He's accused of teaching evolution. The court, is seeing if it's illegal to do so. It probably would be a nothing story, but for some reason it's blown up in celebrity circles. Fucking celebrities. Religious right has gotten William Jennings Bryant involved in the trial. He's acting as the prosecutor, and defense attorney Clarence Darrow is defending Scopes.
So is he guilty?
I don't really think it's that simple. It's not really about that. It's about the sort of rights a man has and what can and can't be taught to kids in school. It's a trial about the government's role in teaching a worldview. And
they're trying to determine if this teacher can inherit the wind. I never would have guessed.
But would you have Jack Lemmon?
We have an opportunity. That's not a good Jack Lemmon. I'm sorry. Continue, Jack. I was in the odd couple. That's how you should hear my Burgess Meredith. All right, continue.
People are saying it's a watershed moment for religion in schools.
All right, so on the one hand, I get it. This guy should be allowed to teach science. But on the other hand, does it really matter if the people in this town want their kids to learn about creationism?
Well, look, I think the important thing here is that a lot of people are upset and that he's teaching about evolution from apes like gorillas and such.
I don't know, man. I think we all need to work together for a freer tomorrow and not be so divisive.
Or just fuck it.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, moving on. I have a question for you then, Josh.
Shoot, buddy.
Oh, okay, so that's what you're most interested in?
Interested in for what?
Is that a new sport?
A new sport for what?
Yeah, what is it?
What is what?
The sport.
What are you talking about?
The upcoming Olympics, of course.
Oh.
What sport are you most interested in?
Oh, well, to be honest, I think that the Olympics are really fucking stupid. However, I am interested in the construction of this Olympic Village.
The singer?
Sure. Sonny and Sure on that.
No, the construction worker from the Olympic Village people.
Oh, God. I was always a bit more attuned to the police officer, but that's just my personal taste.
All right, so
Brother,
what exactly is this Olympic Village?
The Olympic Village is a little community built to house the different athletes and provide scientists a microcosm of every STD in the world.
Sounds expensive and unsanitary.
Yeah, but they're doing it in France. That's like the definition of France.
That's pretty true. So it's not us spending the money, so who cares? No big deal.
Right. Who needs principles or foresight if somebody else is paying the fucking bill?
Yeah, I'm sure dumping more money into an Olympic Village will never become an issue. It'll always stay pretty reasonably priced, and nothing bad will ever come of that. But it's, in either case, even if there was, it's not happening to the U.S. right now, so who cares?
That's right. Look, I just want to win some golds. USA, Daddy. I see you, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. Macho Man ran. Anyways, that was a bad Macho Man. Macho Man's a no, that's bad. Well, the U.S. is sending a good number of athletes, but there's supposed to be around 400 French there, so I assume all the games are going to be pretty close.
It's the second time in Paris, right?
No, I've never been to Paris, but I believe so. Also, Ireland has been given formal recognition as an independent nation and will be competing for the first time here.
There's lots to talk about, right?
Not at all.
All right, well, Josh, on today's agenda, we're also taking a look at Mussolini.
Forced joke in 3, 2, 1. Oh, that's an Irish-born senator who's been pushing for legislation to make chocolate desserts have a smoother, leaner texture, right, Jack?
You're dead right about that, old buddy. He's also the Prime Minister and head of the National Fascist Party in Italy, and in pretty short order has done away with democracy entirely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. It's awesome.
Well, you might be very quick to judge Mussolini as a bad person, but it's time for one of my special counterpoints. Let's not overlook his most valuable accomplishment to the world, Jack. He has almost single-handedly brought fascism into the cultural mainstream, allowing virtually every political debate from now until the end of eternity to end in both sides calling the other side fascist. In fact, I'll guarantee that happens just in the next segment.
Well, every man has a legacy, and in this case, I agree with you. Mussolini's legacy that you just described may be greater than any other we'll ever see.
Amen, brother.
Finally, Josh, you may know them as the strange other half of the population that doesn't talk to you, but did you know that we now have a woman as a state governor?
Which state?
Wyoming.
Why not Oming?
No, it's Wyoming.
I get that, but why not Oming?
No, that's not how you pronounce it.
Well, yeah, you pronounce it as it. Everybody knows that. What are you trying to pronounce?
Wyoming?
Okay, I get what you're asking. I'm asking you why not Oming?
Why not what?
Why not Oming?
The state. The state is Wyoming. That's the name of the state, Josh.
There's a state called Josh? Oh.
Anyways, her name is Nellie Taylor Ross. Is this just misspelled? I never know.
Taylor is J-Lo's great-grandmother.
J-Lo's great-grandmother?
J-Lo, you fucking... J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez, she was in the movie Enough and The Cell.
I thought this was a Cosby reference, which is why I was going to sleep.
No, I was about to say, what do you got in your Jell-O pop?
All right, so Nellie Taylor Ross, she was elected to complete the term of her late husband, who died in office. What are your thoughts on that?
Let's save it for warning shots, buddy.
But you're not participating in that segment, Josh. We have expert panelists, who will critically and rationally analyze all of our topics thus far, and will walk away with a little more knowledge from this edifying experiment.
Two things. It's called warning shots. I'm not expecting much edification. Second, we need to think of a more subtle transition into the segment.
Well, better luck next time. It's our first show.
All right, enough of this BS. It's time to let people know we mean business and fire some warning shots. Today's warning shots are fired over domes, both Teapot and Olympic. Trials, both of science and of fascism. And last on the list, but first in our state's women government. And by women governments, I mean governors. And now, our list of prestigious panelists.
He's been called the most conservative man in America, and he's ready to spill out some of the no-nonsense rhetoric that he's famous for. Mr. Stefan Maximus.
Obliged. A fellow at UC Berkeley and a proud advocate for social change. And by that, I do mean social change. Winner of the Lauren Ashton Weathers Grand Ally to Liberals International Nationwide Award, Mr. Anthony Westonhouse.
A hawkful above my car on my way here. I know this to be a sign from the Wiccan Earth Mother Consciousness that I will pour out my spirit upon our listeners, and they will be enlightened. Thanks. A husband and wife team of savvy political commentators who just can't see eye to eye on anything. Mr. Albrecht Landry and Miss Karen DeVito.
You say potato, I say progressive.
You say tomato, I say steak, please.
You might remember this wacky pair when Mr. Landry was photographed handing out free guns to children at his wife's pro-choice rally.
You know, I led the rally in Berkeley protesting Mr. Landry's vile actions.
And I handed out guns to children at that rally.
You're kidding me. What are you nutjobs trying to do? Start a small militia?
No, sir. Just empowering kids to fully utilize each and every constitutional right and left that the good Lord wrote into our Constitution.
Finally, with no special education or training pertinent to anything, Mr. Dan Goodman. Hey, I'm glad to share my insight.
All right, guys, Teapot Dome, what are our thoughts? Friends, this is an open and shut case of absolute corruption at the highest levels and should serve as a testimony to the evils of corporate America.
Karen, I would totally agree with you if not for the pesky fact that I'm a white male and therefore any opinions or beliefs that I posit are completely invalidated.
Oh, please, being white doesn't invalidate your opinions, you stinky hippie virtue-signaling blowhard. The only thing that could possibly invalidate your opinion is being a convicted felon. Of course, you should still be able to buy a gun in that case.
We've had this fight before, and I just won't budge. Every violent offender in prison is misunderstood and had an unfortunate childhood filled with tragedy and neglect, you heartless bigot. I can only hope that the Council of Wind Goddesses deny you passage into the realm beyond the clouds for your hate-mongering, and you don't recycle. Let's get back on track here, B's and G's. Now, honey, let me point out that no credible evidence has been unearthed against Mr. Fall, and all the leases he handed out to these oil companies are 100% legal. To say that Mr. Fall is corrupt and took a little money under the table is to say that members of our government are fallible, and that we ought to be wary of a large national government. Notions that don't really deal so well with a staunch conservative such as myself. I could never accept that. In fact, that's why I ascribe so fiercely to the Second Amendment. We must use our rights to bear arms to protect and support a strong national government and make sure it keeps its power intact.
Oh my God, give it a rest, babe. It's the duty of every citizen to keep a watchful eye on the government. At the end of the day, the government is jam-packed with human beings, creatures that by our very nature are imperfect, and therefore entirely beholden to serving ourselves with the powers we attain. The progressive liberal that's been inside of me more years than I can count could never trust the federal government.
I'm not a progressive liberal, and I'm more than capable of trusting the federal government. Don't spread these lies.
Look, the bottom line is clear here. Without any evidence of wrongdoing, Mr. Fall needn't be treated as a hardened criminal. We do live in a system of innocent until proven guilty, don't we?
Unless the person being convicted of massive government corruption or committing microaggressions against historically oppressed groups. Those two are lock him up and throw away the key in my book.
Oh, I thought liberals were about rehabilitation more than just straight imprisonment. And I thought conservatives were against big government. I have no idea why my husband went on that strange tangent about trusting the federal government. Look, I have no idea what made you bring this up all that much time later. But come on, lady, I'm not your husband. Would you ever even want to be? Well, of course. Of course, but we don't share political ideologies. I can't begin to tell you how much strife that's caused in my actual marriage here. Well, yeah, but you're pretty hot. And in my book, that fixes a lot of problems I'd have with a person. Even them being a dumb bitch.
Too true. All right, good stuff. Now moving along, this year, Paris, for the second time since the inception of the Olympic Games, is playing host to said Olympics. There has been some blowback from conservative outlets about the Games being held in what one reporter called a vice den for disgruntled Americans. Do you think there is any merit to this argument? Are the Olympic Games good or bad? Stefan Maximus, I'll give you the first word. Go.
Thank you. Look, whether or not you think we should be participating in the Olympics is a separate issue from how we should be viewing our expatriates in Paris. As to the latter case, we want those people to return, and we appreciate our American citizens living abroad getting valuable life skills that they can use back here.
I'm on board with that, man. Are you kidding me? We should just give these people a pass and spend time with these frogs.
Can I finish here?
Go ahead.
As I was saying, it's one thing to look at these expats, but it's another thing for us to be politically and heavily involved in global affairs. Typical. Just fucking typical. We should abandon peaceful endeavors in favor of your isolationist bullshit? Well, hey, that's not quite fair, but look at it like this. We ought to be avoiding confrontations and things which might seem to be favoring a power in Europe. We just learned a valuable lesson in that. Yeah, a lesson in how men could ruin everyone's lives with their horrible little micro-penis wars.
Oh, come on. The war was inevitable given the political situation. Man, war is never inevitable, and it's that kind of thing that keeps us from having things like Olympic Games and give it twice to Paris Hilton. We ought to be, more involved with these affairs to spread goodwill and stuff.
Yeah, do something to actually care about our fellow humans. Or do you think we can all just suffer and die for all you care?
Jesus, honey, lay off the personal attacks.
Don't call me honey, you pig. Can we get back on track here? I mean, look, it's a waste of money, and it might involve us in foreign affairs rather deeply. I'm not saying don't go, but we should just be really cautious about it.
We don't need to be cautious. We have the best facilities in the world, and it will be a good opportunity to raise our prestige on a global scale.
It's a better opportunity to act as goodwill and progressive ambassadors. We should field only our women's teams and let the men stay home. Oh, lay off it, lady.
Okay, people, simmer down here.
Dan, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a blowout games for the United States. I got my eye on this Harold Osborne kid, and I'm expecting great things out of him.
Thanks, young Goodman. Let's leave the critical analysis to our primary panelists, all of whom have earned pieces of paper from fancy universities saying they're smarter than the average bear.
Yeah, seriously, Goodman, what the fuck are you even doing here on this show? At any rate, let's pick our panelist's brain about women governors topic. What do we think here, guys?
Guys, there's a damn lady here, you backwoods inbreeder. I have half a mind to compare you to the public education likes of Mr. Goodman over there.
Calm down, honey. Let's get right back on track here. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with a woman governor. I think it's about damn time.
Really, honey? That's amazing! How progressive of you!
Well, shit. Too late to change my answer.
Yes, Albrook, I too would normally not have a problem with it. But in the spirit of this segment, I'll disagree with everything Karen and Albert would probably think.
Wait, Albert or Albrook?
How about Sumbert and Sumbrook?
I figured our similar names would send your pea-sized conserva brain into full meltdown mode, you fascist pile of burnt books.
Fascist? It's impossible for me to be fascist. You're the fascist.
Oh, come on, Stefan. Don't be so thick. People constantly delude themselves into thinking the other side is fascist and their side is pure and perfect. But clearly you're the fascist here.
I'm going to cut you off here right now. Since I generally agree with Albert, or should I say Anthony, you fucking Scottish dimwit, I want him to have the last word between the two of you. At any rate, we need to be realistic. Men just aren't fit for political office. They're overly emotional, unable to handle stress, and as I understand it, their urine attracts bears!
Look, no one is denying that our urine attracts bears. In fact, I'd say it's the biggest reason why men should hold political office. Are you saying you wouldn't want a legion of bears protecting our political buildings from communists, Jehovah's Witnesses, and bears that are enraged by the scent of urine?
Look, don't take it personally. It's just been proven scientifical-like that men can get real catty around each other and tend to be more focused on superfluous bullshit instead of what's really important.
You know, honey, I really like to have sex tonight, and I know your sister's out of town, so I'll agree with you wholeheartedly.
Thanks, sweetie. You know what? Let's dump the kids on your parents tonight and look through upscale clothing catalogs.
Albrook.
Karen, Albrook, I'll go ahead and take your side here, too. Mostly because I could care less about this topic and would really like to move on.
Wow, I'm so glad we can all see eye to eye on the absolute perfect truth that is progressivism.
You do realize that two of us are agreeing entirely in the interest of pandering, right?
Every victory for progressivism contributes to the vastness of the realm beyond the clouds as the great moon spirit enriches us with her warmth.
Classic edible complex, yikes. And speaking of bunk scientific theories, let's get into this Scopes monkey trial.
Yes, indeed, folks, you may not be aware, but in Dayton, Tennessee, a school teacher is currently on trial for teaching evolution in his classroom. Go figure. This has sparked a broad debate over whether or not God's word and creationism should be the primary thing taught to our students in school, or this evolution stuff. Albert, I'll give you the first word here. Thanks, Jack. Well, you know, I'm just a simple country boy and don't know a whole lot about what science is and isn't, but it seems to me that these kids in these schools ought to learn how to be good citizens, so it seems God's law is what ought to be taught here.
So typical of you. God's law is oppressive and seeks to shackle women and minorities. It should not be taught to our kids. Children do not need to be indoctrinated.
I'm so glad that you said that, Karen. I can see that we're on the same page here. We should ban the Bible from school since it disrupts children's chakra, and instead give them divining stones and teach them how to commune with Mother Earth.
No. I'll tell you, Putz, something right here. The state has no right to tell people what's right or wrong and should let religious teachings be done at home and only science taught in science classes. What?
What? Yeah, what?
Friefa, I'm serious. Our founding fathers fought about this exact thing. Whose version of God will be taught? The Baptists? The Assemblies of God? I certainly wouldn't want it to be the fucking Catholic version. This government has no place teaching religion in science classes as if one person's view of it is fact. It should teach just secular science and leave the life lessons to the home.
You're so wrong, man. That's just negative vibes. Kids need to be in touch with the eagle spirit of the dead mother and need to be taught all of this. Let's all just slow down here. Kids should be getting a good, honest education in these places. God's law is what they need most in life, not sciencey facts that change from year to year.
Oh my... whatever. You're all wrong. Science and religion are just extensions of the patriarchy, designed to teach people that women's place is the kitchen.
If the shoe fits. Or the cooking mitt in this case.
You're not getting laid tonight, honey. Listen, we have to abolish all such teaching in school and focus on an examination of facts for our students that focus on the history of power imbalances in society. Power imbalances in society belong in the science classroom? Well, yeah, power is a sciencey-like concept. It's like electrical and stuff. Look, none of this is objective and agreed upon, and it should not be taught in the classroom. The science is, so just stick to that. We don't need to indoctrinate our youth. Dan, anything to add, or are you just going to continue to be useless?
Well, I'm not really useless.
Useless
yet.
it is. Okay, what have we got going on next, Jack?
Alrighty, segmenteers, and Dan, let's cover today's least controversial topic, the rise to power of Benito Mussolini's fascist dictator of Italy. Well, he's good stuff, Jack.
Such a wonderful man, and that's saying a lot coming from me.
It certainly is, but he's sent as a Joseph Campbell-esque hero by the creator goddesses to cleanse the human spirit of all the lower dimensional evils.
I say he'll go down as one of history's greats.
He's completely railroaded democracy in Italy, firmly shut down all dissent and individual freedoms, and will be responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. This man will be absolutely and uncontroversially reviled by virtually everyone from every political ideology when read about in history books. And to no one's surprise, the objectively wrong opinion from our slack-jawed friend, Dan Goodman.
All right, folks, that siren spells the end of the segment. Each of you, one quick parting shot. Karen DeVideo, go. Women govern better. Albert Landry, fire.
Don't make a monkey out of our schools.
Stefan Maximus, take your shot. Karen, you're a bitch. Anthony Westonhouse, take aim.
Olympic sex for the win. Woohoo!
Dan Goodman, go.
Fall's going to jail and Mussolini will die in a revolt. Alright, good stuff, guys. But we're going to have to call a ceasefire and end the war for this week. I'd like to thank our panel of guests, Stefan Maximus, Anthony Westonhouse, Albert Landry, and, of course, Karen DeVideo. You guys were great, and thanks for being here. Up next, I sit down with author extraordinaire S. Scott Fitzgerald. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Aspen Jasper's Ice Cream. Late night, boss have you pulling double shifts? Try Aspen Jasper's Ice Cream. In regular or menthol flavor. Feel the dull, numbing effect of traditional ice cream as it soothes your worries from the day. Made in the High Horse Valley, Aspen Jasper's is a traditional blend of self-righteous herbs and spices specially formulated to help relieve your pain. Tired of coming home after a long day at the office only to have your wife yell at you? Try Aspen Jasper's Ice Cream to soothe the sores. You'll forget everything anyone ever said to you when you apply Aspen Jasper's Ice Cream. Aspen Jasper's is not like other ice creams. It is made from only the finest ingredients, like oil of scotch to dull the pain of your worthless life, and herb of arrogance to leave you with a high and mighty feeling. That's Aspen Jasper's Ice Cream. Buy it today from Johansson & Johansson. Hello, I'm Greg York, and this is a DTU News Bulletin. World leaders gather today to pay their respects to Rational Discourse, which passed away earlier this week. Rational Discourse had been a big hit during the Enlightenment, but had recently gone into retirement. It resurfaced briefly for the Fort Wayne High School debate finals in 2013, but has been in failing health ever since. The Corona confirmed this week that it passed away after a Twitter user posted yet another unhelpful Donald Trump meme. And this has been your DTU News Bulletin. For all of us at DTU News, I am Greg York.
Welcome back to the show. Our special guest for the evening is famous novelist. His first work, This Side of Paradise became an overnight sensation, selling 41,000 copies in the first year alone. He has written in such prestigious publications as the Saturday Evening Post, Esquire, Collier's Weekly. His third novel, released recently, The Great Gatsby, has met with some success, keeping him well in the public's imagination. Mr. F. Scott Fitzgerald, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's good to have you here. I would like to start off by asking you about Paris. It's my understanding that you've been living out there as part of an expatriate circle for a number of years. What brings you back by stateside?
Oh, it's real simple. I need money to buy bourbon. I came over here to meet with a Hollywood guy about doing a movie.
A movie, huh? That's great. What'll the movie be about?
Well, it's about some fucking flapper girl and her dumb drunk fucking husband.
Fascinating. I have to wonder where a guy gets ideas for such stories. I'm not really the creative type, so it always fascinates me to consider it always is fascinating to me to consider the artistic process.
Yeah, it just kind of fucking comes to me. I know a lot of dopey people.
So you draw inspiration from your personal life and acquaintances, you say?
Yeah, look, I know a real sappy group of putzes. Foolish guys who cry all day while chasing their fucking failures away with the bottle.
That's kind of tragic.
Yeah, it sure is. But listen, dopey, stupid men and women, they make the best protagonists for these stories. Damn fucking public eats it up. They just love a good story about some asshole who whines and cries about how he's in love with some fucking bitch. And then they love a story about some pretty little innocent girl who's too unconventional and too fucking unique to settle for some stupid schmuck she meets.
I see. So you base the characters on people you know, but what about the stories and events?
Same thing, Jack. Listen, I know this one guy. Big, huge guy. Real manly type. Total fucking asshole. Always whining about some stupid fucking nurse he met in the fucking war. Limp dick guy, too. So, I watch him pine away for this stupid nurse and follow the things he does. He tells me that these stories, when we were at a cafe, he just spills the beans and fucking cries. Jesus Christ, what a fucking baby. Anyways, I turned that whole old love thing into the Gatsby and everybody fucking loves it. And then the stupid fuck don't know the fucking difference. What a fucking moron.
That is incredible. So, speaking of Gatsby, I wanted to ask you some questions about that. Is that okay?
I don't know, I guess. Who fucking cares?
Great. So I noticed the automobiles in Gatsby always happen to make a stark appearance right before or around a tragedy in the story. I was wondering if this was a broader commentary on the advances and dangers of technology, how in our rapidly advancing age, technological innovations, like the automobile, telephone, internet, which doesn't exist yet, or does, I don't know. At once, they make our lives and world easier by granting us greater freedom, as demonstrated by the car ride that the characters take in the book. But at the same time, they also limit our social circles by forcing us into more of a group mentality, interacting with fewer and fewer people outside of our immediate circles, since the convenience of the car outweighs the convenience of merely having to talk to and associate with your neighbors. Would you care to comment on that?
Look, Jack, I didn't go to some fucking fancy university and spend $50,000 a year for a bullshit piece of paper that wouldn't do me no good. The cars appear in the story because they're fucking cars, and people have to get to places. Don't be such a fucking moron. They're just pretty to look at and convenient for people to get around in.
Absolutely fascinating. It's a great wonder to get to look behind the scenes and see how things are done from the artist's perspective. So let me ask you real quick while I have you. Why Paris? Why not stay here in the United States?
Tell you what, Jack. Let me quote my cousin Tony B. He's got an IQ of 157. 2 words. Prohibition.
All right. F. Scott, thank you for joining us.
F. Scott, fuck you, buddy. Welcome back to the show, and now as we close, it's time for our final thoughts. We all have times in our life when the chips really seem down. We might find ourselves on trial or the fascist leader of a country shackled with responsibility. In any case, it's hard to see what is plain as day right before us. This sort of thinking dominates all of us in society and causes a lot of divides to occur where none ought to. Still, in a similar fashion, we often find ourselves uplifted by things around us. Whether this is watching women gain their civil rights or through observing the marvel and majesty of human achievement through sport. In either case, these sorts of thoughts show us our inner selves and remind us that not everyone has had an easy road as we have had, no matter who we are. It's important to remember this and to focus on these sorts of differences and similarities when we deal with one another in an effort to form a brighter, more peaceful and loving and insular tomorrow. And that's today's final thoughts.
All right, fantastic. Well, that seems to be it for today, folks.
Yes, indeedy, Jack, it sure is. I hope you've all had a wonderful time on the program. I would like to thank our panelistic guests, except Dan, and I would like to thank our special guest, F. Scott Fitzgerald, straight from New Jersey. Next week on What's Happening Now, we will have two-time Oscar-winning director Plebis St. Orion, as well as a panel of guests including Stacey Fame Lady and Florence Importiano. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and have a great rest of your week.